whoever has gone ahead and observed the Torah, come and collect your reward. The nations line up. The Rebbe Shalom asked them a simple Torah, ultimately a simple question: who amongst you has observed the Torah? And of course, none of them are able to answer. So the Gemara is trying to understand. So now the nations kind of come back and they say, Rebbe Shalom, well, we didn't accept it. You didn't give it to us. That's not a good answer. The last answer we saw from the Ummah Sa'olam was they said, well, listen, Kadosh Baruch Hu, even Klal Yisrael did accept the Torah, accepted it because you placed them under duress, meaning you threatened them. Okay, had you threatened us, we also would have accepted the Torah, but you didn't threaten us. So what happens? So Amar Lahem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Harishonos Yashminu. Rabban Shalom says, well, let's do this. Why don't we look at your relationship with the Shabbat Mitzvos B'nai Noach? Why don't we look at your relationship with the commandments you do have? And at the end of the day, Shnei Amar, Harishonos Yashminu Sheva Mitzvos Shekibaltem Heichen Kiyamtem. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to the Ummah on big shots, you say that you would have observed the Torah, but I gave you 7 mitzvos, and you don't even observe those mitzvos. You don't even keep the basic staples of Noahide law. So how can you claim that if you were given the Torah, you would have accepted the Torah? How do you know that the nations of the world didn't accept, didn't uphold the Shemitz B'nai Noach? The Tani Rav Yosef, because the pasuk says, Amad vayemoded aretz ra'a v'yasar goyim. Ma ra'a, what did HaKadosh Baruch Hu see? Ra'a zayin mitzvah shekiblu aleim b'nei Noach v'lo kimum. The Rebbe Shalom saw the 7 mitzvahs that Bnei Noach accepted upon themselves, and yet they did not uphold them. Kevan shelo kaimum. Once he saw that the nations of the world did not accept or did not uphold the 7 mitzvahs, Amad v'tiron. It's a very dramatic Gemara. Once HaKadosh Baruch Hu saw that the nations of the world did not uphold the 7 mitzvahs Bnei Noach, the Ribono Shel Olam was matir them. Now, we'll say matir them literally sounds like what? HaKadosh Baruch Hu released them from the Shem Mitzvahs Bnei Noach. To which the Gemara says, 1 second. Iskuri Iskar, are you telling me then that through non-performance of the mitzvos, the nations of the world benefited? In other words, because they didn't perform the mitzvos, they're exempted? That doesn't make any sense. Imkein, Matzinu Chote Niskar. If that's the case, then what happens? We see that a sinner is rewarded. Rabbi say, how is a sinner rewarded? So apparently, don't keep something. Let God command you to do something. Don't keep it, right? Fail to keep it, and what? And HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give you a pass. Does that make sense? Amar Mabrei Dravina, both say top of Gimel, Lomar, Sha'af al Pisha Mekaimin Osan Ein Mekablan Alein Schar. No, what it means is that even though they're obligated to keep it, HaKadosh Baruch Hu does not give them schar. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't give them reward. So they're obligated, and the Ummah Sa'olam are obligated to keep the Shemitz B'nai Noach, but ultimately they do not get reward for it. For lo, is that true? They don't get reward for it? V'hatanya, Hay Rabbi Meir Omer, Minayin Shafilu Oved Kochavim Va'osik B'Torah, Shuka Kohen Gadol. We'll say, how do we know that even if a Gentile, a non-Jew, learns Torah, an idolater I should say, learns Torah, that he is as great as the Kohen Gadol? We'll say what that seems to mean is, the way we're understanding it is, that if a non-Jew goes ahead and performs his mitzvos, that he gets schar just like the Kohen Gadol. And again, even if we were to learn Torah, the Mefarshim point out that this is Davker Torah Shebichsav. There's a whole discussion with non-Jews learning Torah Shebal Peh. Not our topic for today. But how do I know that if a non-Jew learns Torah, that he gets schar like a Kohen Gadol? Which also means, for our purposes, that when a Gentile, an idolater, performs a mitzvah, he gets reward. So the Gemara says, Talmud Lomar, Asher Ya'asa Osa Adam V'chai Bohem. Because the pasuk says, these are the mitzvahs that a person will perform, and he will live through them. HaKohanim Leviim V'Yisraelim Lo Ne'amar. It doesn't say Kohanim Leviim Yisraelim. Elo Ha'adam. We'll say now, Ha'adam is the most generic term we have for a human being. Halamarata Shafilu Ovei Kocham Va'osik B'Torah Hariyuka Kohen Gadol. The both say, so the fact that it employs the word Ha'adam teaches us that what? That any person who engages in the pursuit of spirituality is rewarded. So how can you claim that the idolaters, that the nations of the world, don't get reward for the performance of Shem Mitzvos B'nai Noach? It seems to be to the contrary. It seems to be, it's clear that they do get reward. Ella, rather, what does it mean, Rabbi say? Inachinami, you're right. That the nations of the world, Rabbi say, the Ummah Sa'olam, when they go ahead and they do their mitzvos, they do get reward. But, Ella Lomer Lacha, Shein Mekablin Aleim Schar, Kimitzuva Va'oseh, Ella Kamisha Eino Mitzuva Va'oseh. Rather, I will say what it means is as follows. That ultimately, again, they don't get reward as someone who is commanded to perform the mitzvah. Rather, they get reward as someone who is not commanded to do the mitzvah. Dam Rabbi Chanina, Godol HaMitzuva Va'oseh, Yoser Misha Eino Mitzuva Va'oseh. As Rabbi Chanina says, Rabbi Osai, that a person who is commanded to do something and does it, gets greater reward for a person who is not commanded, but yet does it of their own volition. I will say, very often we think just the opposite. We think that someone who does something that they are not commanded to do is of a higher level because they're going above and beyond to obligate themselves. Masha Inkin, the person who's obligated, I'm obligated, so I don't get a great stress. So we'll say, if you look at Tosis, Tosis says over here, Gadol HaMitzvah va'oseh, Perish, Mipnei Shu Doeg Tamid Levatel Yitzro, Ulekayim Mitzvahs Boro. I will say, because we know this. I don't need Tosis to tell me this because we know it. When you are commanded to do something, there is a greater Yitzhahara not to do it. Not to do it. Right? I will say, so what mean, anytime you have to do something, by definition, the push against it, not to do it, which is a whole variety of things. On the most, Chaim Shulevitz writes extensively about this, that at the end of the day, I will say, what we want more than anything is self-autonomy. What we want more than anything is I want control. Don't tell me what to do. So the moment that somebody tells me what to do, and even if it's God, by definition, there's a subconscious desire to push back against that. Interestingly enough, do you know what is the most common first word for children? Most common first word? No. We'll say, what's the problem? All of our children have, oppositional defiance disorder. Like, what's the pshat? The pshat is because embedded in our psyche is this desire for complete control. Don't tell them. I mean, it might also be because it's monosyllabic. I'm sure there's other reasons, linguistic reasons why that is. But lemaisa, again, on a deep psychological level, on a deep ruchni level, it's because don't tell me what to do. Don't tell me what to do. That's why I both say, it's an amazing thing. I remember when, where was it that they had the big floods that we went to go clean up? No, before. Seagate. See, remember Hurricane Sandy? Sarah, it was amazing. I saw. We got like buses of men to get on there and go clean up someone else's garbage, while each of us lament the fact that we have to take out our own garbage. Right? It's an amazing thing. I haven't cleaned up my basement for years, but Chaim Yankel's basement, a couple of states away, I'm there, right? I'm ready to clean it up. Why? What's the pshat? Because in my house I have to do stuff. And I don't want to do the stuff that I have to do, but stuff that I can volunteer for, stuff that I can roll up my sleeves for, absolutely, all in. So the Gemara says, it's an incredible. So that's why, if you're commanded to do something and you do it, you actually get greater schar than if you do it and you're not commanded to do it. It's easier to volunteer. It's easier to feel like you're going above and beyond. But to satisfy your responsibilities, that is Yetzer Hara again. So therefore, the Gemara suggests, yes, the Ovid Kochavim ultimately do get reward, but they get reward for someone who is Eina Mitzvah Va'oseh and not someone who is Mitzvah Va'oseh. So the Gemara says, rather, this is what the idolaters say before God. Ribono shel olam. You saw, we'll say here it gets intense. You saw shekiblu ahechan kaimuha. So they say to Ribono shel olam, excuse me, you're painting the Jews like a group of angels. You're painting the Jews like you gave them the mitzvahs, and of course they're performing the mitzvahs. Ribono shel olam. We'd like to do some fact checking over here, right? Have the Jews really performed the mitzvahs in the way that you claim they did? Have the Jews really adhered to you as much as you claim they did? So HaKadosh Baruch Hu, ani made by him shekimu haTorah kula. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, yes, I will be made. I, God, will testify. Moshe, listen to this. God, we mean no respect. Baklum yesh av shemeyed al beno. Your pasal edis. Moshe, can you imagine this? I'm sorry. Your pasal edis. A father is not permitted to testify about his son. D'chsiv b'ni b'chor Yisrael. So almost I'm saying, it's not fair. You love them. We know. Okay, we got it. You love them. Therefore, you are pasal edis for Klal Yisrael. Do you understand what that means? Do you understand what that means about the love between the Ribono Shel Olam and us? That HaKadosh Baruch Hu is pasal le'edus for Klal Yisrael. The Ribono Shel Olam cannot testify. This is God. He can testify anything. He's pasal le'edus for Klal Yisrael. Why? Because there's an Agias, because there's an Ava, because there's a Chibur, because he's our father and we're his children. Incredible. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu is fine. Ya'idu, Shamayim v'aretz ya'idu. Bohem shekamu es haTorah kula. Let heaven and earth come and testify that Klal Yisrael has observed the entire Torah. So the Gemara says, Omer le'fanav Ribono Shel Olam, Shamayim v'aretz nogin be'edusan. Heaven and earth can't testify either. Why? They're also nogeh be'edu. Shneimar, im lo brisi yomam v'laylu chukos shamayim v'aretz lo samti. What does this mean? My covenant. Im lo brisi yomam v'laylu chukos shamayim v'aretz lo samti. The Torah, the pasuk makes reference to a covenant and to statutes. What does this mean? What does the pasuk mean when it says, and it was evening and it was morning, the sixth day, Malamed? So we'll say the question is, why is there a hey before Shishi? Malamed Shisna Kodesh Baruch Hu Ma'aseh Bereishis. The Rebbe made a condition with creation. Va'amar Im Yisrael mekablen es haTorah mutav. If Klal Yisrael accepts the Torah, good. Ve'im, good meaning nature will be sustained. Ve'im lav ani achzir eschem latov avahu. But if not, I will return the world to nothingness. And Rabbi said, this is what Chizkiah says, if the earth is fearful, then why is it quiet or tranquil? And if it's tranquil, why is it fearful? In the beginning of creation, the earth was concerned, because will it survive? Afterwards means what? After Klal Yisrael accepted the Torah at Har Sinai, then by definition the earth was tranquil. So Rabbi said the idea over here is the Hashishi. Rashi points out two different interpretations based on this Gemara. Hashishi could either mean either the reference is to the hay, which represents Chamishei Chumshei Torah, that the entirety of creation is predicated on Klal Yisrael's acceptance of the Torah, or Hashishi means the sixth. The sixth refers to what? The 6th of Sivan, which was the date of Kabbalah's HaTorah. Either way, embedded in the very pasuk itself, is Chodesh Baruch Hu saying to creation, you survive as long as what? As long as Klal Yisrael accepts the Torah. Therefore, again, the Umos Ha'olam say to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we're sorry, but the heaven and earth can't testify on behalf of Klal Yisrael. Why? Because they're also Nogeh Be'edus. Why are they, right? They also have a material interest in the testimony. Why? Because if Klal Yisrael doesn't survive, then what? Then they don't survive either. So the Gemara says, Mikem Yavo Ve'idu B'hen Bi Yisrael Shekaimu Eskal Torah Kula. We'll say this is so beautiful. The Rebbe Shalom says, fine. We'll say this is amazing. So Baruch Hu says, you're telling me again, I'm Pasal this. I got it, Pasal You're telling me Shai have artists Pasal this. Fine. You know what? Let's have members from amongst the nations of the world who will come and give testimony. Yavo Nimrod V'yoid Ba'avram Shalo Avad Avodas Kochavim. Let Nimrod, Rabbi say, come along and testify about Avram, that Avram Avinu did not go ahead and worship Avodah. Remember again, Nimrod was the one who threw Avram Avinu into the fiery furnace, because Avram Avinu refused to bow down to the idols. Yavo Lavan, v'yoid b'Yakov shel nechshad ala gezel. Let Lavan come along and testify that Yaakov Avinu was never a thief. Right? This Rashi points out, this is a reference to the incredible miracle that multiplied Lavan's flock on behalf of Yaakov. Tavo Eshes Potifar, v'Sa'id b'Yosef shel nechshad ala aveira. Let the wife of Potiphar come along and say that what? That Yosef did not succumb to his passions, that Yosef did not engage in immorality. Yavo Nebuchadnezzar v'yo'ib b'Chananya Mishal v'Azariah shlo ishtachavu l'tzelem. Let Nebuchadnezzar come along and say about Chananya, Mishal, and Azariah that they did not go ahead and bow down to the idol. Yavo Daryovesh v'yo'id b'Daniel shlo bitlas hatfila. Let Daryovesh come along, Rabbi say, and testify that ultimately that Daniel did never stop davening. Rashi points out over here that Daryavesh had made a rule that you can only daven to him. That was a law he legislated. You could should daven multiple times a day. Just daven to me, says Daryavesh. So Daniel defied it. That's how Daniel wound up. Remember again in the den of lions. Right, that's how he ended up there, because he davened illegally. It was a legal prayer. He davened to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So that Yavo Bildad Ashuchi V'Tzofar Na'amasi Ve'alifas Hatemani Ve'elo Ben Brachel Abuzi. So we'll say these are all the friends of Eov. These are all the friends of Eov, who the Gemara identifies as Nevi'im in their own right. So the Gemara says, now Rashi actually points out, Rashi says we take out Elio ben Berachel, Lo Garsin and the Yisrael Hava. So he says we take him out of the list because, again, the other ones are all Gentile prophets. Ve'a'idu ben Yisrael, Shekaimu es kala Torah kula, Shene'emar, Yitnu Edeim v'yatzdiku. So we'll say, ultimately, again, so Chodesh Baruch Hu finally says, fine, I can't be the aid. The heaven and earth can't be the aid. But there are enough members from amongst the Umos Ha'olam who could testify about the righteousness of Klal Yisrael. So we'll say, listen to this. To listen to this wasn't to the bracha. It was Amar leFadam Ribbon Sha'olam. To know lanu merosh v'naser. We'll say, listen to this. Listen to this. We'll say, this Gemara in itself is such a musar. What's happening over here? The Umos Ha'olam are being confronted by the folly of their ways, right? They're being confronted ultimately again by the fact that they didn't lead the right kind of lives. So we'll say, when you are confronted with your mistakes, so what's normally the first course of action? Normally the first course of action is deflection. Well, it wasn't me, or you're holding yourself up to such a high standard. Who are you? So what's happening over here? So the first course of action in the Umos Ha'olam, when the Umos Ha'olam ultimately again are confronted, first is denial. Then deflection. Klal Yisrael is not so great. Now that we've shown that that's incorrect, what happens? Fine, you're right. Give us the Torah. So give us the Torah now, and we'll do it. Okay. We'll say this is amazing. We'll say this is the story of the human condition. When all of the excuses go out the window, I'm forced to confront reality. We made a mistake. We messed up. We made a mistake. We should have lived holier lives. We had Shem Mitzvahs B'nai Noach. We didn't observe those properly. We should have pledged our allegiance to you. Fine, let us start again. Give us the Torah, or we'll say whatever this means. Whether this means, it doesn't necessarily have to mean give us 613 mitzvahs. It means give us the principles of the Torah, and we'll do it. Shotim Shalom. What are you talking about, you fools? We'll say, get ready for this. Misha Tarach be'erev Shabbos yochel b'Shabbos. And we'll say, it is only those who toil on erev Shabbos who have the ability to eat on Shabbos. What does this mean? Look at Rashi. Be'erev Shabbos ba'olam hazeh. We'll say, remember, when is this happening? This conversation is occurring ultimately, again, in the Messianic era, Yemos HaMashiach. This is happening on Shabbos. Meaning, not literal Shabbos, but figurative, metaphorical Shabbos. The Rebbe Shalom says, if you want a nice Su'uda on Shabbos, there's only one way to get there, and that is, you have to cook, you have to work, you have to labor on Erev Shabbos. Only those who labor on Erev Shabbos must have the ability to have the Su'uda on Shabbos. So, Mishalo Tarach Berev Shabbos. We'll say these words are so profound. Someone who does not work hard on Erev Shabbos, Mehechan Yochel B'Shabbos. What is he going to eat on Shabbos Kodesh? We'll say you understand the incredible message. The incredible message is our whole lives we're working towards Shabbos. If you want a meaningful Shabbos, what does the Torah say? Sheishes Yamim Tasem Elachtecha. You want a Shabbos? You want a meaningful life? You want a meaningful Olam Haba? I have to work for it every single day. 6 days a week, I have to make sure that I'm working, that I'm moving my life in the right direction. Because if I think that I'm going to show up on Shabbos and there's going to be a takeout place right wherever I get to on Shabbos, it doesn't work that way. At least not with that Kodesh Baruch Hu. If you want Shabbos, if you want Olam Haba, if you want to know that you've lived a meaningful and enriched life, then it's Sheishes Yomim. See, Rimon Shalom just says, you have to prepare an Erev Shabbos. I'm more machmir than HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Right? It's not just enough to work on Erev Shabbos. It's Sheishes Yomim Tasem Elachtecha. No, if you want real Shabbos, the preparation begins when? Begins on Sunday. It begins on Sunday, right? This was Hillel and Shammai. It begins on Sunday already. If you begin working for your Shabbos on Sunday, then you'll have a Suda, then you'll have what to eat on Shabbos. So the Rosh Hashanah says, I don't know what you want, Umos Sa'olam. It's Shabbos. And now you want Torah. It's Shabbos, and now you wake up. It doesn't work that way in life. Rabbi will say, here's the Rachmanas HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Rosh Hashanah says, okay, but nevertheless, mitzvah kali yeshli v'sukkah shma. I have a mitzvah for you, and it's an easy one. It's called sukkah. L'chuva asu osa. Go and make yourself a sukkah, and let's use this mitzvah. So Gemara says, 1 second. This is amazing. The Gemara gets angry with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Gemara says, that's not how it works. So only Jews can tell the Rebbe it's not how it works. That's not how it works. What do you mean you're giving them a mitzvah now? What does it mean when the pasuk says, Kadosh Baruch Hu says, the mitzvahs that I'm commanding you today, Hayom la'asosam, v'lo l'machar la'asosam. It will say mitzvahs are performed in this world and not in the next world. Hayom la'asosam, v'lo yom lital schar. Today we do it, but today we don't get schar. Schar comes in the afterlife. So we'll say the idea that Gemara is saying over here is, you're bending the rules. You're bending the rules. The way the world is set up is this world is Erev Shabbos, and Olam Haba is Shabbos Kodesh. This world is the preparation. This world is the work. Or very often without this Su'udah Shabbos. And next world, Olam Haba, when Mashiach comes, that's Shabbos. But how can you're now standing in Yemos HaMashiach? How can you now give them another chance? To which the Gemara says, this is incredible. This is amazing, and this is an incredible yisod. The Ribono Shel Olam is conflict averse. The Ribono Shel Olam does not like to fight. The Ribono Shel Olam does not like machlokes. So the Umos Ha'olam are saying, no, okay, let's go ahead and we want the Torah. Kadosh Baruch Hu, what is he going to say? No? Okay, you want it? Let's give it a try. Let's give it a try. Moshe doesn't want machlokes. He wants shalom. So we'll say, what happens? Why is sukkah called an easy mitzvah? The less bechisar on kiss. Because I will say it doesn't cost anything. I will say, you're thinking to yourself, it doesn't cost anything. You know how much those panels cost? And the schach mats? I will say, that's because we're spoiled, right? And that's because, again, we need everything easy and everything prefab and everything interlocking and everything 1, 2, 3. I will say, but sukkah, I have it also. I'm not giving mussar. I'm not giving mussar. I will say, but sukkah, the idea is, if you think about it, sukkah can be performed with all what we'll call naturally found materials. In other words, I could forage and find whatever I need for sukkah. The idea is it doesn't have to cost me anything. Fine, so what happens, Rabbi? So now the umos are given sukkah. So miyad kol echad ve'echad nota v'holich v'osa sukkah b'rosh kago. So we'll say, you have to give the Ovdei Kochavim incredible shkoyach. As happens, Rabbi, miyad. Miyad means what? Immediately. There's this resource. So everybody goes and they make their sukkah on the top of their roof. So what does the Moshe Shalom do? He makes it as hot as in the middle of the summer solstice, right? So he goes ahead and he brings out the Tammuz sun. And we'll say, what happens? What happens? We all know what that feels like. We all know what that feels like. It does not feel like Gan Eden, right? Mamish, it feels like the other place. So what happens? Kadosh Baruch Hu goes ahead and takes out the sun in its full strength, and the Umos Ha'olam go out. They kick the sukkah and they leave. Shnei Amar, Ninaskas mos rosemo, nashlicho menas avosemo. Let us cut the cords and let us throw away the ropes. Maktir, I don't understand. You just said before that Kadosh Baruch Hu doesn't fight with his creations. So God, why are you making it especially hot? In other words, it sounds like Kadosh Baruch Hu is going out of his way to make it ridiculously hot. Why do that? Oh, I'll tell you why. Mishum di Yisrael nami zimnin, Amad Beis Rabosai. Mishum di Yisrael nami zimnin, Dimash chalu tekufas tamas ad chago, v'havelit Zara. They will say, because very often, that's our sukkahs. Right, our sukkahs is also performed in the midst of the summer. In other words, even though again sukkahs is in the middle of Tishrei, as we know very well, could be 100 degrees. So therefore, I will say, the Rebbe Shalom is just saying, listen, I'm going to give you the mitzvah, but you have to be willing to perform it under the same conditions that Klal Yisrael performs it. So Klal Yisrael performs it under the conditions of extreme heat. Therefore, you have to be willing to do that as well. 1 second. But Rava says, but 1 second, Rabbi say, mitztayer, if someone is exceptionally uncomfortable, by the way, many people don't know this. People often think that the din of mitztayer only applies to cold. But it's not true. The din of mitztayer also applies to heat. Also applies to meaning. So a person would be permitted to leave their sukkah in a situation of extreme heat as well. So Rava says, I don't understand. This is not a test, meaning if HaKadosh Baruch Hu is bringing out the blazing sun, it's ridiculously hot, you're permitted to go inside your house. So they're potter from sukkah. To which the Gemara says, you're right, to us. So listen to this. Nehi de potter ba'ute mi mevati. It's true they're potter, but why do you have to kick it on the way out? See, Rabbi, when the Jew leaves the sukkah, he leaves begrudgingly. When the Jew leaves the sukkah, what does he do? He goes around and he canvasses everybody. Are you okay? Are you okay? What do you think? Should we go? They go inside, and then Rabbi say, when you go inside from the sukkah, you know what happens. And you go inside from the sukkah, Rabbi say, there's an incredible, overwhelming feeling of guilt. Overwhelming feeling of guilt, saying, really, this was my opportunity to be Moser Nefesh. Maybe I should have been Moser Nefesh, but everyone's uncomfortable. This one's upset. This one's already not talking to me. This one's about to not talk to me. I hope this one doesn't talk to me. And all of this different stuff. And I have all of these cheshbonos. And the whole time I'm eating, but I've lost my appetite because, oh my gosh, I'm Moser Nefesh for absolutely nothing. This is my own opportunity for Mesiras Nefesh, and now, I am such a little girl. You'll excuse me, right? I'm just I get too old, I get to this, I'm going inside. So, and again, and what happens? What happens? The Umos will say, it gets too hot, they kick the sukkah, they go out. The kicking the sukkah, Rabosai, the kicking the sukkah ultimately represents this despising of the mitzvah, this negative feeling. And Rabosai, the way you leave the sukkah speaks volumes about your spiritual character. The Jew leaves the sukkah begrudgingly and longingly. right? The Jew lives a sukkah, and every step he's looking back, and every step he says, maybe I should go back in, maybe it's okay, we'll do the meal a little bit faster. The Ovei Kochavim, it gets too hot, he kicks it, he resents it, he doesn't, what do I need this for? And he leaves. Miyad Yoshev HaKadosh Baruch Hu u'mesachek aleim. The Rebbe Shalom sits back and literally, mesachek aleim literally means he laughs. He laughs. Sheneh Amar Yoshev Hashan Yitzchak. V'amar Rabbi Yitzchak ein tzchok lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu ela osegam bilvad. Now, this is an interesting concept which we'll talk about more. There is no, generally, tzchok is not an attribute to be found by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Right? So we'll say generally tzchok is not found before God. Ela osayom bilvad. Exception that day. I will say, now the reason for that we'll discuss, but in general, the Rebbe Shalom is not known for his boisterous laughter. Right? He's not known for his good sense of humor. He's not known for tzchok. Tzchok literally means like laughter or jest. So we'll say, except on this day, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu sees the arguments of the Ovdei Kochavim essentially evaporate right in front of them and right in front of him, he laughs. They're saying Rabbi Yossi Omer, V'asid lavo, Ba'in Ovdei Kochavim is Gairin. Also listen to this. In the future, Mashiach comes, the Ovdei Kochavim will come and will convert. So it says, will we accept them as converts? We'll say, yeah, we learned. When Mashiach is also a very profound statement. When Mashiach comes, we will not accept any more converts. We'll say similarly, along those same lines, we did not accept converts during the days of David HaMelech and during the days of Shlomo. We'll say for one simple reason. What's the common denominator between the days of David, Shlomo, and Mashiach? These are the times when Klal Yisrael is on top. We don't accept converts and Klal Yisrael is on top. But we'll say for one simple reason, we can't tell if the conversion is genuine. Everybody likes to be part of the winning team. You know, part of what we tell a person when they convert is just know that the Yisrael Devuyim, Sechufim, we're persecuted. We're persecuted, I will say. And again, even though, thank God, we live in unparalleled times. We live in unparalleled times, even in diaspora. Again, we know we're a persecuted, despised nation. People do not like us. It's important to go ahead and remember that. And never delude ourselves into thinking that we're accepted or that we're loved. We are tolerated. And we're tolerated. And we're tolerated as long as we serve the needs of others. The moment that we stop serving the needs of others is the moment that the world turns on us. So I will say, and it's very important to live with this yisod. I know it sounds like a little bit of a downer, or a lot of a downer, but I will say it is the unequivocal truth. No one loves us. They tolerate us as long as there is a utilitarian relationship, as long as we serve their benefits in some way, as long as we feed the economy, as long as we have the fundraisers, as long as we do this, then we're needed. Then everybody loves us. The moment I will say that stops is the moment that the Jew will be cast away. So that's when we accept Gerim. You want to join us then? Fantastic. But again, at any other time, we don't accept. So the Gemara says, how can we accept Gerim in Yemos HaMashiach? So it says the Gemara, Ella, Shenasu Gerim Girurim. Rather, will say what it means is they become Gerim on their own. They become Gerim on their own. Umanichan Tfilim Berashin Tfilim Bezarazayim. So also listen to this. So the Umos HaOlam, the Mos HaMashiach, just begin observing the mitzvahs on their own. So they begin putting on tefillin, putting on mezuzahs, wearing tzitzis. Amazing. And I will say, again, to be clear, they have not been officially converted. They're just doing this on their own out of a personal decision to join Klal Yisrael. I will say, get ready for this. Kevan Shram Melchamas Gog U'Magog. I will say, it's actually very interesting because the timeline of Messianic redemption, according to this Gemara, is interesting. It sounds like over here, according to the Gemara, that there's Yemos HaMashiach, which is some type of Messianic prayer which is initiated. Then comes the war of Gog U'Magog. Now we know that there are two Mashiachs. There's Mashiach ben Yosef, Mashiach ben David. Mashiach ben David, according to most opinions, comes after the war of Gog U'Magog. It could be the Messianic era that they're referring to over here as a Messianic era that is initiated by Mashiach ben Yosef. I guess we're going to Mirat Hashem see b'shatov mitzlachos. But the point over here is they have this self-imposed conversion. Then the war of Gog U'Magog, which is the ultimate showdown between good and evil, which is a war against Klal Yisrael. Omer lahem ma'ama basem. So we'll say when the war of Gog U'Magog comes, so they ask the enemies of the Jews, "Why are you here? Why are you here?" Omrim lo al Hashem va'al Mashiach. We're here to wage war against God and against His anointed nation, or against His anointed one, Mashiach ben Yosef. Shneimar lamu rag shukam lomim yagurik v'chol echad menatek mitzvaso v'holech. We'll say when the Umos Olam hear that the nations of the world are here to do war against HaKadosh Baruch Hu and against Klal, so what do? They take off their tefillin, they take down the mezuzah, they put the tzitzis in shemus and they say no thank you. Shneimar nenatzko es mosro sema. HaKadosh Baruch Hu yoshev v'mesachek, and the Rebbe Shalom sits and he has schok. He laughs. Shneimar yoshev b'shrayim yischok. The Rebbe Shalom also sees that herein lies the difference between the Jew and the Ovid Kochavim. The Jews' resolve, Rabbi say, is unshakable. The Jews' resolve and commitment to HaKadosh Baruch Hu is unbreakable. In times of good and in times of difficulty, we are aligned with the Ribbon Shalom. The Umos Rabbi say, unfortunately, demonstrate over and over that even when there is dveikus, it's a fair weather dveikus. That at the end of the day, everybody likes to be part of the winning team. But the moment that there are challenges, the moment that there are difficulties, they no longer cast their lot with the God of Israel. So the Gemara says the following. So the Gemara says, the Rosh Hashanah has laughter on that day, only on that day. Is that true, Ini? This is actually amazing. This is, how does the Ribbon Shalom spend his day? Well, so you ever wonder, how does God spend his day? Someone's going to tell you, how does God spend his day? There are 12 hours in the day. Well, so this is amazing. Shalosh Rishonos HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yoshev Ba'osek B'Torah. Well, so for the first 3 hours of the day, HaKadosh Baruch Hu sits and learns Torah. So we'll say, this is an important lesson in and of itself. Because in the event that you think that your career is too demanding, to go ahead and be koveh itim laTorah, to go ahead, you are not busier than God. Let's go on the record with that. No one is busier than God. So the Rebbe Shalom has got 3 hours a day that he sits and he learns. Okay, so maybe I don't have 3 hours, but Lamaisa, again, clearly, if the Rebbe Shalom is setting aside time to learn, I have time to learn. So Shabbos is also dramatically amazing how the Ribbon Shel Olam grows from Torah as well. Kiviyachol, that the Ribbon Shel Olam some way, somehow, maybe grows is the wrong word, but derives something from Torah. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu could derive something from Torah, then imagine what we're able to derive from Torah as well. So what happens? Shnios, we'll say after that, right? So the first 3 hours of the day, he goes in and he says, learns Torah. Shnios, second 3 hours, Yoshev v'danas kol ha'olam kulo. He judges the entire world. Kevan sherosh nischayev olam kliya. I will say, here's the problem. Judgment pretty much always comes out the same way, which is mankind deserves to be destroyed. So we'll say, so that's how judgment pretty much comes out. But yet, omed mikisi adim v'yoshev kisi rachmim. The Rebbe Shalom stands up from the throne of justice and sits down on the throne of compassion. Which also means Kadosh Baruch Hu realizes he can't judge the world through the prism of strict justice because it won't work. Mankind won't survive. So instead, he judges man through the prism of compassion. We'll say first wide line. The Gemara says Shlishios. We'll say the third set of hours. Yoshev v'zan es kala olam kulo mekarne re'emim ad beit sekinim. He sustains the entire world, Rabbi say. Literally, karni re'emim means the very large animals to beit sekinim, to the smallest of animals. Rabbi Shalom provides poseach es yadecha umasbia lechol chai ratzon. So we'll say in the third set of hours, HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes care of sustaining the world. Revios Yoshev u'mesachek im lev yasan. We'll say this is very interesting. In the fourth set of 3 hours, he goes in and he spends time, literally again, playing with the lev yasan. I will say, so we'll discuss what this means. Playing with the lev yasan, what does that mean? So we'll say, we're going to see, Shneimar lev yasan zeyatzar de l'sachek bo. Remember again, so we'll say lev yasan was the giant sea creature. HaKadosh Baruch Hu created 2. Killed one of them, salted it for the meal of the tzaddikim by Mashiach, and the other one still exists. So the idea being, and we'll see this more actually in tomorrow's daf as well. The idea over here that's trying to be clear is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is involved with every aspect of creation. The parts of creation that are visible, the parts of creation that are not visible. The Ribbon Shalom is metapel, is actively involved with all of them. So Gemara says, Amar Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak, in briosa mesachek va'al briosa eno mesachek elabosa and bilvad. So Rav Nachman says, the Ribbon Shalom laughs together with his creations, but he never laughs about his creations, with the exception of that one day. That one day, I will say, being the day on which the claims of the Ovdei Kochavim are clearly proven to be false. From the day that the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, I will say, there is no more laughter by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. From the day that the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, the Rebbe Shalom stops laughing. The Gemara says, from where do we know that there is no schok by HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Maybe it's because the pasuk says, and it is on HaKadosh Baruch Hu called out on that day being the day that the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, for bechi, mispaid, and karcha, literally crying eulogies. Like karcha means tears. Dilma hau yom v'sulo. Maybe what it means on the day that the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says we should cry, we should eulogize, and no laughter. But on other days we can laugh. Ela dichsiv im eshkachech Yerushalayim tishkach yemini. Rather, we learn from the pasuk, if I forget Yerushalayim, I should forget my right arm. Tidbak l'shoni l'chiki, let my tongue cling to my palate. Imlo eskerechi, if I do not remember you, Yerushalayim. To which the Gemara says, so from here the Gemara suggests that from here you see that because we must perpetually remember Yerushalayim, there is no laughter. I don't understand. Maybe what it means is Rabbi say, I can't forget Yerushalayim, but I could still laugh. In other words, Rabbi say they're not mutually exclusive. I can forget ultimately again that I can't forget that which has been lost, but that does not preclude the possibility of schok elameha. Rather, says the Gemara, we learn out from the following pasuk. The Gemara over here quotes from the pasuk from Yeshayahu. So the Gemara says, "Hechashisi me'olam acharish es apak." Rather, I will say the pasuk says, "Hechashisi me'olam acharish es apak," which literally means I will be quiet eternally. Acharish, I will silence myself. Es apak, I will hold back. So from here, the Ribbon Shalom says that from the day that Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, ultimately again, I am restrained in my laughter. We'll say even the Ribbon Shalom mourns for the Beis Hamikdash every single day, and even in a more dramatic way than us, because we still laugh, Baruch Hashem, we still rejoice, Baruch Hashem, but by the Ribbon Shalom, there's no schok since the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. Amar Reish Lakish, I'm sorry. Berevios Mai Avid. We'll say what happens. Well, this is actually a very profound and beautiful Gemara. What happened in the fourth set of 3 hours? Remember, I was saying again, you see the Ribbon Shalom's day is broken up into 3-hour increments. So what happens in the fourth increment of 3 hours, the last 3 hours of the day? My Rebbe, listen to how beautiful this is. Yoshev umalame tinoko shel beis Rabban Torah. Let's say this is a dramatic Gemara. The Ribbon Shalom sits and he teaches Torah to the young children. I will say, who are the young children? Take a look at Rashi. Rashi says over here, well, actually not yet, I'm sorry. Shnei Amar, Esmi Yoredeya, Vesmi Yavin Shmua. To whom does he show wisdom? To whom can he make his teachings understood? Gimule Mechalav, Atiki Meshadayim. Lemi Yoredeya, or Lemi Yavin Shmua. Rabbi say, to whom does HaKadosh Baruch Hu teach wisdom? To who does he make his statements understandable? Legimule Chalav, Atiki Meshadayim. Rabbi say, what does that mean? Literally, to those who are nursed, or to those who are weaned, I should say. Rashi says, Gimule Chalav, Shemesu Kishehem Kitanim. Well, so you understand the incredible profundity of this Gemara. The Gemara says, to who does HaKadosh Baruch, what's the HaKadosh Baruch Hu do with the last 3 hours of the day? He teaches Torah to children who died when they're young. So this is, the Rebbe Shalom has a yeshiva also, and it's the yeshiva of children who left this world when they were young. It's the children whose parents don't have the opportunity to raise them, to take care of them, to nurture them. The Ribono Shel Olam teaches them Torah each and every day. For the last 3 hours of the day, in the yeshiva of the Ribono Shel Olam are the Gimulei Chalav, are the Tinoko Shel Beis Rabban who left this world when they're young and literally have the best Rebbe of all. The Rebbe who's not just a Rebbe, but the Rebbe who's a father, the Rebbe who loves them, nurtures them, and he gives them 3 hours of his divine day each and every day. Such an incredible Gemara. Umeikara man hava migmarlu. So says the Gemara. Ultimately, again, so here's what's interesting. So the Gemara understands over here that block of time that was at first used ultimately again for the Tinoko Shel Beis Rabban was occupied by the Beis Hamikdash at first. So the idea is when the Beis Hamikdash stood, who educated these children? In other words, who gave that shir before the Rebbe Shalom had this time? So the Gemara says, Ibai Seima Metatron. Could be that it was the Malach Metatron. Ibai Seima Hava HaAvid. The Rebbe Shalom did both. He looked in on the Beis Hamikdash and he also taught the children. Ubalai Lamai Avid. So we'll say now we know the Ribono Shel Olam's day. So I'll say, so we just, Kiviyachal Havdil, we just got to do a ride along with the Ribono Shel Olam. Right now we see exactly how he spends his day and what he does each and every day. So I was like, look what the Gemara says. No, and what does he do at night? Right? What we know you don't need to sleep. So what do you do at night? So it says the Gemara, so also one possibility is that his nighttime schedule mirrors the daytime schedule. Rochev ala kruv kal shalo v'shat b'shmona asar elef olamos. What's the other possibility is the Rebbe Shalom has a chariot, right? A fast chariot, and the arch kruv is literally a malach. He has a malach who is his chariot, and the Rebbe Shalom literally ventures into the 18,000 worlds. In other words, We'll say the Gemara many times discusses this concept that there are many worlds beyond our own, many worlds beyond that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created. Either HaKadosh Baruch Hu created them and left, or HaKadosh Baruch Hu created them and destroyed them. But there are worlds beyond our own, and at night HaKadosh Baruch Hu goes in and checks in on those worlds. Shnei Amar Rachav Elokim Rivosayim Elef Shanan Al Tikri Shanan Elo She'inon V'Bai Sema Yoshev V'Shomea Shira Mipi Chayos. What's the other possibility is that at night HaKadosh Baruch Hu listens to the beautiful angelic song, the song from the Chayos. Shnei Amar Yomi Yitzav Hashem Chastu B'Layla Shira Imo. Amar Rabbi Levi Kala Posik Midivrei Torah Va'osek Midivrei Sicha. So we'll say, okay, now we're switching gears for just a moment. Rabbi Levi says, whoever stops learning Torah and engages in idle chatter B'divrei Sicha, Machililo Gichali Rusan. We'll say, so this is not. So this is pretty stark. So if a person goes ahead and is learning Torah and he stops learning Torah, so literally again they feed him burning coals. We'll say the idea being is like a mida kineged mida over here. If I'm using my mouth to learn Torah and I interrupt that pursuit to do something idle and unnecessary, so my koach hadibor is impacted. Shnei Amar hakotfim. Here the Gemara is quoting here from the pasuk from Eov. Hakotfim maluach alesiach v'shoresh risoim v'shoresh risomim lachmam. Fine. The Gemara goes right. Amar Yishlakish kala ostik b'Torah balayla. If a person learns Torah at night, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Moshech alav chut shel chesed bayom. We'll say this is so beautiful. If a person goes ahead and learns Torah at night, so the Rebbe Shalom literally places upon him a chut shel chesed, a thread of chesed by day. Also, what that means is a person is endowed with a certain amount of angelic chesed, or I should say divine chesed, by day. If you look at Rashi, Rashi says over here, chut shel chesed, no sein cheno be'eni habrios. So what this means is, a person learns Torah at night, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives him a special chen, that he's able to find chen, he's able to find favor in the eyes of others by day. Shnei Amar Yomam Yitzava Hashem Chazdo Ubalayla Shira Imo. Matam Yomam Yitzava Hashem Chazdo. Why is it that ultimately by day HaKadosh Baruch Hu will be mitzvah, that a person will find chesed in the eyes of others? Mishum because at night the song of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, i.e. Torah, was with him. But the idea is that if a person takes nighttime, is a time when a person would normally fall asleep. If a person takes of his night time and uses it for Avodah Hashem, then what? The Rebbe Shalom gives him an additional measure of divine favor, an additional measure of chen. So the Gemara goes right there. The Gemara says, Iki de Amri, other possibilities, Amri Shlakish, Kala Osik B'Torah Ba'olam Hazeh, Hadome L'Layla. But if a person learns Torah in this world which is often compared to night, right? They will say, why is Torah compared to night? Why is this world compared to night? Because of the difficulties and because of the suffering and because of all the challenges we have. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Moshech alav chut shel chesed ba'olam haba. The Rebbe Shalom ultimately again goes ahead and ensures that there's a chut shel chesed, a little strand of chesed, extra chen, that accompanies me in the world to come. Hadom eliyom, because that world is compared to the day Shnei Amar Yomam Yitzav Hashem Chasdo. Amr Rav Yehuda Shmuel May Dichsiv Vate'asa Adam Kidigei Hayam Kiremes LaMoshe Bo. So we'll say, listen to this. So we'll start this. We'll have to stop in the middle. Rabbi Yehuda said name is Shmuel. What's the meaning of the pasuk that says that Vate'asa Adam Kidigei Hayam, that man is made? Rabbi say the pasuk over here is talking about in Chabakuk that man is made like the fish of the sea. Kiremes LaMoshe Bo. Lama nimshalu b'nei adam kidigayam, or lama. For what purpose are people compared to fish? Lomar lecha, both the second of the widest lines. Ma dagim shabayam kevan shalom yabashim yad mesim. Just like Rabbi say, fish of the sea, when they come onto the land, they die. Af b'nei adam kevan sheparshim edivrei Torah min hamitzos miyad mesim. But say so to people. So people, if a Jew doesn't have Torah, Jew doesn't have mitzvos, we'll say it's as if he's without his very life force and he dies. Maybe not physically, but certainly spiritually. We'll say just like the fish needs water to survive, the Jew needs his ruchnius, the Jew needs his Torah, the Jew needs his spirituality, not just his and her, in order to go ahead and survive as well. Davar acher, ma dagim shabayam kevan shekadra aleim chamam yad mesim. We'll say just like the fish of the sea, if they are exposed to the sun, without the protection of the water, they die. Kach b'nei adam kevan shekadra aleim cham yad mesim. We'll say so too, man, if he's exposed to the sun, ultimately, again, without the protection of Torah, he also dies. So both say, ultimately, again, what that means, Rashi, the Gemara says, what sun are we talking about? Some say it's the sun of this world, others say it's the sun of the next world. So we'll say, I don't want to rush through this. But the idea over here is a fundamental machlokes, ultimately, again, on how we understand the sun. So we'll stop with Rabbi Silber. We'll pick up with this piece tomorrow. But the idea being the comparison between man and fish, just like the fish needs the water to survive, ultimately, again, man needs Torah mitzvahs in order to survive. Just like the fish, if the sun beats down on it without the protection of water, it'll die. So too, if the sun beats down on man without the protection of Torah, he'll also die. What's the sun? Emeretz Hashem, to be continued.